you come from a family. Obviously, your brother, everyone knows Jake, and your mother, Oscar-nominated, Emmy-winning, Naomi Foner, and Stephen Gyllenhaal, your father, director, and all of that. So this was just going to be in the stars for you. You were going to do this.
It's not at all how I feel. I feel like, looking back on it now, having made this film, I feel like I was always a director, really. Mm-hmm. I was always backing up against the limits of what I was able to explore as an actress, and I found it really frustrating. But at the same time, I don't think I felt entitled to even consider how much I wanted to direct.
Your name, Leda, it's very provocative.
You're thinking about the Yeats. I bet you know it by heart. In Italian.
Tutto di colpo. La grande ale, palpitante, sulla ragazza, staggering girl.
Sconcertante.
Sì, ragazza, squarcittante.
Welcome to Behind the Lens now. You've seen her before. We've had her here for the actor side. You know her as a star of many, many different movies, and now making her feature directorial debut with The Lost Daughter and Maggie Gyllenhaal. Welcome to Behind the Lens.
Thank you.
And I have to congratulate you, too, because you started right out of the gate at the Venice Film Festival. You won Best Screenplay, and here it is. This is what Netflix sends out, the beautiful screenplay that you wrote.
Wow, I actually would love to see that.
Yes, absolutely.
How
here,
beautiful.
I'll even give it to you afterwards. It's
I have one, but
oh, you do?
no, I don't have one like printed though.
Oh yeah, no, that's
I have one like sitting on the floor of my office.
Isn't that cool?
That is really cool.
Yeah, and you wrote it.
Yeah.
So you won it at Venice, and you swept the Gotham Awards. I mean, Best Feature, everything there. New York Film Critics Award. And what does this feel like on your first directing gig, as it were?
I sort of feel like, since we screened the movie at Venice, because we made the movie in a pandemic, like everybody did, but like we never had a screening.
Right.
I don't know if we talked about this, but the whole time I was editing, it was just me and my editor, and we showed the film obviously to a few people who we respected, but like when the movie played at Venice, that was the first time I ever saw it with an audience.
Wow.
Ever.
That
was also the first time, because we had no money, that I saw my color-timed film with my mix.
Wow.
Like, I had heard my mix many times, and I had seen it fully color-timed, but I had never seen them together, because we mixed with a not color-timed print. So, so it was almost like something was born, and it was like a fairy tale or something. It was very dramatic, and then I just guess I feel like we haven't stopped moving.
No, I mean, definitely not since then. Well, you've been around the world with this film now, and as it's finally, people are going to get to see it out there that have no connections.
Soon.
So that'll be interesting to see the reaction.
I know. It actually occurred to me. Well, it's funny. Like, that's what's on my mind now, actually, is the people who have nothing to do with film.
Yeah.
Also, the people who don't really know anything about Elena Ferrante, the book that the film is based on, and also the very kind of popular book that the film is based on. But what if you're not into that?
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested now in how the film will hit or move people, with no connection to it at all.
Yeah, I think they're going to definitely relate to it, and particularly zero in on, obviously, Olivia Colman, who's so terrific in this. The casting could not be better down the line here, but you
Yeah.
know, she is so good. I think they're going to see the themes here that you're talking about of what it is to be a woman, a mother, a daughter, a wife, all of those things that are covered. And of course, Jessie Buckley, who plays the younger version.
She's
of
so
her.
brilliant, isn't she?
Yeah, and that too. I mean, that's universal. I think, particularly for women when they look at
Well,
this.
I mean, well, first of all, I love the thing that Peter says, my husband says, everybody has a mother. And so in
Yeah.
some ways, it doesn't matter really if you're a woman or not.
Right.
But I do think that, you know, part of what I was after and what I felt in the book was this like honesty about being a woman in the world that I hadn't come across before.
Right.
And I think that there's something inherently dramatic about telling the truth.
Yeah.
And in particular about telling the truth about something that's taboo. Like that just gets people's attention. Like
Yeah.
their ears perk up. And I feel that way. And so, yeah, I guess what I'm hoping is that, like I said, people who never picked up Ferrante, that's just not their thing, still, I think, will be like, I hope, will be turned on and comforted, really, by hearing the truth said out loud.
Yeah, and when you talk about taboo, the taboo is she, as a younger wife and mother, left her family and didn't, and as it shows in the film, didn't seem to mind that. And that was the guilt there too at that moment.
I think she minds it. I mean, I think like basically she goes really far, you
Yeah.
know. But the thing is I think so many of the things she feels, so many of the things that she feels as a mother, we all feel, even if we don't leave our children. So, I mean, I think often the whole experience of being a woman in the world, but maybe in particular mothering, is what's considered normal, and especially on film, is this very small spectrum of things. And if you're outside of that sort of small space, then you're considered abnormal or sick or, you know, whereas I don't think that's the case. I think despair and deep confusion and anxiety and terror even is a part of being a parent.
Yeah. You know what I love too about this? On the beach, middle-aged actress, woman,
Yeah.
playing a woman of that age, Olivia Colman, you don't see in movies.
Right.
You don't see it comfortably played
Yeah.
and represented. And I
Yeah.
thought that was great.
Well, I love all of my actors' bodies. I do.
What
you know?
the way you move the camera and
That's
things.
what I
that's
mean.
very clear.
Olivia's body and Dakota's body and Jesse's body and Peter's body and, you know, Ed's body is all a part of the storytelling.
Yeah.
And what Olivia's arms or neck or face, you know, which we really are kind of all over her with the camera, it tells you so much about her life.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I think you're right. I think like to make to make a woman who's in her 40s sensual and sexy and also broken down and all the things that anyone who's in their 40s is going to be. It's true. I don't think you see it that much. And then Dakota
you
too,
don't at all.
who's this gorgeous body, but then is also so many other things in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, but to see the water dripping on her body and then at the same time to have her have need and hunger and be, you know, have a whole set of real things that a human woman needs. Like, I like those things next to
All
each
of
other.
that too through the eyes also of Olivia Colman watching, you know, there, and the way the camera works between the two of them, and
Yeah.
there's so much silence.
There's
that-
lots to say about that if you want me to.
Sure, I just thought that was interesting, you know, directorial choices, the way you shot those things between them.
Well, I think a few things about this, particularly that stuff on the beach, because
Yeah.
it's so silent. You know, that storytelling is not. There's very few words, and the
Right.
words that are in that section of the movie are not really the point. So yeah, I think first of all, early on, we need the audience to know, well, we don't need them to know, but if they'd like to come along on the trip with us, the ticket to go on the trip is by getting into Leda's mind, into Olivia Colman's mind. So if you shoot, you know, in a very classic way, which we did, Dakota across the beach with like a piece of Olivia's face in it, and it's very much like a kind of, you know, classic thriller or Italian neorealist type of feeling. Yeah. And you see that Dakota's, you know, 50 feet away from her on the beach, because that's how we've oriented it. And then we're so close on Dakota immediately that you can see like the water dripping on her skin. You can see the writing on the doll's body. You can see her daughter's face. So close. You know, you can see their pores. Well, then that doesn't make actually any sense, even cinematic sense. Yeah. All what you're then seeing is what's happening inside Leda's imagination. So it's sort of like telling the audience, if you're going to understand the story, you're going to have to get inside her mind. Yeah. And also, I think I was playing a lot with observing Dakota, right, Nina. Yeah. I was interested in, you know, because there's been so many movies where beautiful women have been adored, obviously. Yeah. There's been stupid ones where they're you know, whatever, objectified, and it's really never that interesting or sexy, the stupid version.
Blake Edwards' 10 is probably the classic of that genre.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh yeah, Bo Derek.
Yeah.
And the camera is just ogling her through half the movie, you know, through the eyes of Dudley Moore, essentially.
But is it, I haven't seen it. Is it sexy? Is it interesting? Is it compelling?
It's sexy, you know, because, you know, I mean, but it's made through the eyes of a man, a male director.
Well, but there's other movies made from the eyes of a man where they're adoring a woman, and it's really compelling. For instance, like Antonioni and Monica Vitti, or Godard, and all of the women that he was adoring with his camera. And I am also compelled by those movies. I'm also compelled by the women in those movies. I want to eat them, or I want to wear their sweater. I want to cut my hair like Anna Karenina. You know, I have, but But I was interested in using that kind of cinematic, classic, compelling cinematic language. But then what happens if that character who we've been observing that way, loving, adoring with the camera that way, gets up and has need, and has like a kind of unsatisfied, unquenchable need, and can't fit into that box anymore? Yeah. Then what happens? Then what does it look like? So
that's what interested you here, and it's interesting, the book, you know, what you're taking from the book, what maybe you're leaving out in the book. I read an interview with Elena Ferrante, who doesn't do interviews.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So I've read it, and I thought it was fascinating. But my God, you must have loved it, because she is being asked these questions, and it's just, I can't imagine what it would be like to have the author rave about a filmmaker's version of her book and see it in a very objective way, which is what she did. She actually used a phrase. She said she liked your unfaithfulness to it, which I thought was so interesting, because most authors would insist you be faithful.
Well, she's so wise. But doesn't she also say, or I sent it to my two girlfriends when I read it, and one of them quoted the beauty of betrayal.
Yes, the betrayal was another key line that she said.
Yeah,
betrayal of her text, you know.
Right, but she doesn't mean, I know that I didn't actually betray her. I think she asked me in another article she wrote to make it my own. Yeah. And I did. I know that I did. But this article that you're talking about, which I also read yesterday, the second that it came out, and was so moved by, I was having a conversation with her. Even though she's anonymous, I've never met her, I never will, I've never spoken to her.
That's not even her real name.
No, I don't know what her real name is.
Nobody does.
Well, it's funny. Saverio Costanza, you know, who wrote and directed My Brilliant Friend on HBO, he's like, everybody in Italy, we know she is. Everybody knows. And he's like, he's like, but what good does it do you, Maggie? You want to go and see her do her shopping, her grocery shopping? I'd take you, I'm like, I do kind of, yeah. I know who she is.
Yeah.
But like I just said to you before, like I hope that the movie gets inside of people who never heard of Ferrante and don't care about Ferrante. Fine, I do want that.
Yeah.
But I also was having a conversation with Ferrante with my whole movie. So for her to respond that way and she pointed out these two moments that are mine, that aren't in the book.
Right.
She talks about when Jessie Buckley says, I hate talking to my kids on the phone.
That's what I was referring to earlier, too, that kind of attitude towards, the children is kind of shocking for viewers to see.
You're not allowed to say that out loud,
right?
That you hate talking to your kids on the phone.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say, and we'll try not to give too much away, but, Olivia Colman's character says she did something really, really hurtful. And when asked how she felt about it, she says it felt amazing.
Yeah.
But neither of those things, like anything else in the movie, are meant to exist as totally literal explanations of something.
Right.
You're watching a woman destroyed by unbearable pain that she herself has caused herself and her family, and then she says it felt amazing. So it's not that it didn't feel amazing, it's just that it's mixed with a whole lot of other things. And I felt, from what Ferrante said, that she really understood that she and I are both interested in the sort of vibration between what's actually written down literally and what you're feeling underneath that. And I was really, really, I read the article so fast, like I was eating a dripping ice cream cone. And then I thought I was going to go back and read it when I was alone in my room, in my hotel room, where I'm, just like alone in California right now. Yeah. And I kind of couldn't quite pick it up again. This happens to me sometimes with things that are precious to me. I need to like wait a second before I read it again. It meant so much to me.
It was really interesting. I haven't seen something like an author come out in that kind of detail and very realistically and authentically talking about this.
She's nothing but realistic and authentic.
Yeah,
And that's so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so
Which probably drew you to this in the first place.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what drew me to it. But she's so truthful and so unrelenting. Yeah. Oh, she said something about the film that it was like excruciatingly something strong or I don't know. And that's like her book. It's excruciating, but it's also like so relieving, and it's like a kind of an explosion.
Yeah.
Like,
so interesting.
Yeah.
You come from a family, obviously your brother, everyone knows Jake, and your mother, Oscar nominated, Emmy winning, Naomi Foner and Stephen Gyllenhaal, your father, director, and all of that. So this was just going to be in the stars for you. You were going to do this.
It's not at all how I feel. I feel like, looking back on it now, having made this film, I feel like I was always a director, really. Mm-hmm. I was always backing up against the limits of what I was able to explore as an actress, and I found it really frustrating. But at the same time, I don't think I felt entitled to even consider how much I wanted to direct. And look, Jane Campion and I have been at like all these dinners and all this stuff and all these festivals together, and look, there's a woman who did feel entitled and was an outlier and was able to do it, and I have an unending amount of respect for that. And it took me longer. It was harder for me to feel entitled to want that. But now I'm like, I just think about, there are so few directors that like and want an actress with ideas. Mm-hmm. There are directors who are brutal. And look, you learn how to work. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, protect yourself, protect your tiny little bit of space. And then every now and then there are directors who are full of love and curiosity and respect. And I just think about like how much time and energy I spent negotiating carefully. I read, I think this is true. Somehow I have it in my mind that Meryl Streep said in some interview I read that if you're an actress and you need something artistically, ask for it with a spoonful of sugar.
Oh.
Which I think is great advice, and I took it, you know, for most of my life. But I think it takes a lot of energy, you know,
Yeah.
coming up with the spoonful of sugar, be a little funny, how do you get what you need? And I also, when I was a producer on The Deuce, and the kindergarten teacher was different. Those are my producers who produced these.
Right, I know.
But on The Deuce, with amazing collaborators, like really interesting.
And you were a real producer on that too.
Well, I would see early cuts, and I would write like essays about why a shot or a scene had to stay in or must go out and what it meant. And again, I had to be funny and I had to say it just right. And, you know, like, so, and then I get on my own set where I don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
And I also, it was very important to me not to ask anyone else to do that.
Right.
Or I get into my editing room and I'm like, it's mine. I'm just free. I can explore whatever I want. I don't have to justify I don't have to do a spoonful of sugar. Me and my editor are partners, you know. Yeah. It was, so in a way, it's a little bit sad to me that it took me so long to do this, because to me, it feels like, it's like I walked into like, you know what it's really like? It's like, I think like a lot of people have this dream that I used to have when I lived in a tiny apartment, that in your dreams you like turn a corner and you're like, oh my God, there's a whole nother room here, you know? And that's how it felt to me to kind of crack down the space that I was in as an actress. But it didn't come, it did not feel like an inevitability at all.
Well, how about this for an ending? There are a whole lot of other rooms in your career coming that we can't wait to see.
Thank you.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
Behind the
you.
Lens.
Thank you. This was great.